Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Gaslighting the Warfighter. I'm Will Wisner, I'm the Executive Director at the Grunstyle Foundation, and I will be your host today. And joining me is my dear friend, colleague, and in many ways mentor, Miss Angie Peacock.
Thank you for having me, Will.
Thank you for coming. We have got to do some interesting things together. We dissected this year, let's see, just alone, we dissected the VA's suicide report. That was an incredible amount of content, a very long amount of content, but very in-depth. I think it's probably the most comprehensive and thoughtful deep dive available anywhere on that topic. People can find that over on our YouTube channel. But that was fantastic. I always learn so much whenever you are around and kind of laying down the things that probably not too many people know.
True. Yeah. I have a radical view sometimes and a very realistic view of these.
Balance is a good thing. You know, nobody ever won any war with hugs.
That's true.
You know, that's how I look at it. But so today, primarily, we're going to be talking about the issue of overprescriptions on SSRIs, benzodiazepines, antidepressants, things that we talk a lot about. But we're going to be spending the majority of our time today talking about healing and
my favorite
what's
topic
next, right? What happens after you make that decision to take that step? So that's where we're going to go. But I'd like to start off by, I guess, kind of introducing you to our audience in terms of who you are, what your background story is, how you came into this heavy line of work. So why don't you tell me about yourself? How'd you grow up and all of that?
I am from Ferguson, Missouri originally. Joined the military at age 18. U.S. Army. I was communications signal. I served 7 years, one deployment to Baghdad. Pretty severe trauma while I was there. Was medically evacuated out for a non-combat illness after 6 months. The very next day, my convoy got hit that I was supposed to be on. So I got to see a soldier come back wounded. And that was one of the hardest days and the worst decision I ever made in my entire life, to ask for help, because that help came in the form of 40 prescriptions in 13 years. So I ran the gamut of treatment for post-traumatic stress. I also have MST in my background. So it was MST first and then combat trauma on top of it. And then I just believed myself to be broken. I need help. I went to all my therapy appointments, followed the doctor's prescriptions to the letter, did several treatment programs, equine therapy, everything I can get my hands on to try to heal myself. And I felt worse than ever. I met a doctor at the VA in Columbia, Missouri, actually, who, St. Louis, Missouri, who said, "Who put you on 18 prescriptions? We need to get you off of this." And I was taken off 10 overnight.
Ooh.
In John Cochran VA.
Oh, what was that like?
I hallucinated. I heard voices. I saw dead people, like really scary shit. Then it took me about 10 more years to deprescribe from the others. And kind of how that went was, oh, this one doesn't work. Take you off that, put you on this. Okay, let's go up to the highest dose. Now let's go down to the lowest dose. Let's cold turkey off this. Try that, try this. And I know lots of vets.
I think they call that dialing it in. That's what my doctor called it.
We call that throwing shit at a wall.
Right.
To see what sticks.
Same thing. Yeah.
And I didn't really know heads from tails. I was just listening to the doctor, letting them do what they wanted me to, telling me what to do. I was following it under medical supervision like you're supposed to.
Right.
And I had a friend tell me, "Angie, that Cymbalta that you're taking, you need to open the capsule and count the beads out and just take some beads out every month." So I tapered off Cymbalta successfully, which is an antidepressant, for 2.5 years.
Ooh, and you had to do that on your own off the advice of your friend. Did it on my own. Well, thank God for your friends. Sounds like they knew what they were talking about.
Saved my life.
Had they titrated off of these medications themselves?
Yes, but then I had 2 benzos left.
Oh.
And which I later found out benzodiazepines are anti-anxiety drugs, Valium, Xanax, clonazepam, Ativan, lots commonly prescribed in VA. I think there was 18 million 30-day prescriptions in 2018.
Ooh.
That's a whole lot of vets on benzos.
That's a lot.
It increases your likelihood of suicide 2.5 times. It's contraindicated for PTSD, and it makes PTSD worse.
Well, that's damn near everybody in the VA system.
Right.
So why is this their go-to?
Because it works.
Well, clearly does it?
Clearly. Well, it does in the short term.
Right.
In the long term, on studies, it's shown to make your anxiety worse, makes your PTSD worse.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where you end up. People like me, where okay, I'm really anxious. I need this benzo. That's what takes away my anxiety. And then when it wears off, you have worse anxiety.
Right.
And then you think, I need this drug to keep me sane. I can't finish school. I can't go to work. I can't sleep without this drug. But you don't realize it's the drug making your anxiety worse.
Yeah, it's just an horribly maniacal system just to be trapped in, because it's somebody, when I got on the meds, it was at the advice of my doctor, which was recommended for me for some. I mean, I didn't even go into the doctor for any of that. That was just, they ask you the questions and you're like, yeah, I'm having a bad day. Yeah, right. I had a rough week, or next thing you know, here you go. But I wasn't even going in for that. So it's like,
which we heard that story on Capitol Hill too. Somebody went in for an eye exam and was given an antidepressant.
Yes, and it's all these stories are insane, and everybody can relate to this to some degree. Whether if it's not them, it's somebody they know, especially in the veteran community. Oh. And to me, there was a moment like where the scales fell from my eyes, and I suddenly was able to consider, for the first time, maybe this is playing some role in what I'm experiencing. But it's so maniacally done that when you come in, you're told that you're already broken. And then this is what this is, and this is the way out of that. And then when that doesn't work or the symptoms get worse, well, now it's validation that you're broken and that your condition is progressing.
And so let me break that down. For me, that looked like, in my medical records, it says chronic and severe post-traumatic stress not likely to improve. Mm-hmm. I'm 100% permanent and total for that. What that also looks like is your condition is worsening. But if these guys are on 8 and 10 and 13 drugs, I was on 18, and they're doing bad, why are they not looking at the meds as the problem? When a guy gets suicidal on an antidepressant, they take that as that's the condition developing. They're really depressed now. We need to give them more meds, instead of saying, what about the med that they're on? Right. Could that be what's causing it?
Right. And no one even thinks to look at that.
No. And it feels like a grenade that nobody wants to jump on, and that the medical industry has completely ignored. These drugs, this is the fact. These drugs impact your thoughts, your behavior, and your actions. That is how they work. Mm-hmm. So how are we not so surprised when a guy's not doing well and they're on said medication? And so for me especially, it felt like it was happening so subtly that I was losing myself that I didn't even see it. Yeah. And then 10 years later, you look back like, wait a minute, I was runner-up NCO of the year for 1st Armored Division 10 years ago, and now I can't leave my house, and my hair's in dreadlocks, and I don't brush my teeth, and I have no friends. Mm-hmm. That's my illness?
Right.
Are you sure?
That you had to take the medication to try to overcome.
And I'm on all these meds, and I'm doing all this therapy, and I'm doing everything you tell me to do. And I'm worse than I've ever been, and I can't even see hope out of this. Of course, I want to end it.
And that revalidates the fact that you're broken.
I'm broken. Nobody understands me. I'm isolated. I have no one, and everyone was away from me. I had no marriage. I lost my marriage through this. He said, you're on too many pills. Like, you're not a wife. I got to go. He was a tanker. I married a tanker from 3rd ID. He's in the hospital right now, medicated, same as me, same situation. So anyway, let me go back to the story. So I'm left on 2 benzos. I switched from St. Louis VA to Columbia, and I put the 2 drugs on the table, and I said, I want off of this shit. Like, get me off of this. And he goes, well, you shouldn't be on 2 of them anyway, so pick one. We'll take you off the other. So I was cold turkeyed off one benzo, oh my God, left on the other. And then at least he kind of helped me taper a little bit. It was wrong, but I was on 3 milligrams of Ativan a day. So like 1 milligram 3 times a day. It sounds so little, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
No, it's not little. So I tapered like 0.25 every 4 to 6 weeks. And then when I got down to 1.25 milligrams, I made that cut from 1.25 to 1. And I literally felt my nervous system break open. Everything was a startle response. I was full of adrenaline. I felt like I could run down the street screaming with my head cut off. I had constant suicidal, intrusive thoughts. I was like, what the fuck just happened to me? And this is me as WashU. Yeah. Okay. You walk the campus. We're alumni, brothers and sisters. That's right. I'm a 4.0 student in the undergrad program for psychology. I am a statistics tutor I am in research methods, finalizing my final paper about yoga versus prolonged exposure for post-traumatic stress. And I can't even answer my email. I can't sit in a classroom. I'm in final exams and I'm like, why am I suicidal? There's no reason to be suicidal. I'm so excited. I'm finishing school. You know, I'm about to go enter my clinical psychology program, PhD. Oh my God, everything's looking up for me. And I'm instantly suicidal because of the way that they were tapering me off of these drugs.
Right. So now I want everybody to know. So Angie, as part of her advocacy, was heavily engaged with a movie. She's in the movie. She's one of the primary characters, or whatever you call the main subjects of a documentary. And it was some dark stuff.
Yeah.
That was
real dark.
Like, well, the darkest things I've ever heard.
The darkest thing, listen, I would go to combat 100 times as compared to go through benzo withdrawal again. That is how fucking severe it is. I am not mincing words when I say that, and that's kind of why I'm here today, because I want to talk about deprescribing safely, because I don't want a bunch of guys to watch all these awareness videos and everything we're doing Capitol Hill wise and be like, these drugs are dangerous, let me stop taking them tonight. Do not do that.
Yeah, it's even worse,
folks.
Not. This is even worse.
Do not.
Most of these big triggers come when people try to get off of these medicines and they're not doing it correctly.
Yes.
And it's hard to do it correctly.
Very hard.
So doing it incorrectly is damn near impossible.
And it was done incorrectly to me under the care of a VA psychiatrist.
So can you explain for our audience kind of what that experience entails? Like, what is that like to go through that withdrawal?
So that was January 6th, 2016. And it literally took me 3.5 years. I'm not exaggerating, to be able to like speak in sentences, to talk normally, to go anywhere 20 minutes radius outside of my house. I mean, I was completely brain damaged. Like, so imagine a heroin addict who cuts cold turkey. They're going to be sick for a couple weeks, right? They might have what do they call it? Post-acute withdrawal syndrome for 18 months. An alcoholic, when they cold turkey, they might get delirium tremens in the hospital. They have to be put on medication for that. Benzos, it's one of the few, benzos and alcohol can kill you.
Yeah.
You can get seizures that will literally kill you.
Yeah.
It happens in jails all the time when these guys get cold turkeyed off. So imagine that I lived through that, something that I should have died from. So I can't even, there's not even language for it, but it felt like complete nervous system annihilation. So the buffer to the outside world was removed and everything was coming through me almost like I had autism. I couldn't stand, there's no way I could sit in here with all these lights, sound, talking to people, faces look scary. Like my entire perception was in another planet. I saved myself because I dove deep into reading and research, and Bob Whitaker. I found all these guys and just started reading and listening. Angels. Okay, I read Bob's book when I was about 4 months off, and he makes the point in Anatomy of an Epidemic about these drugs can worsen your outcome. These drugs can change the very way your brain works because of neuroadaptation. That's how the drugs work. It's like we forget that. Okay, these drugs work by changing things. When you stop them, they don't just change back overnight. They take several years to regulate themselves again. In that process, you don't know who you are or what is happening, and you're kind of walking in the shadows with no flashlight because nobody's up there ahead of you saying, I got off the drugs, this is what happened to me, you're going to be fine, but you need to ride this out. So in that situation, I figured out this was the drug. I am in withdrawal. If I go back to the VA, they're going to put me back on the meds. Do I want to do that? No, I don't, because I'm seeing what the damage has been done to me. And I'm sane enough to see it. So no, I'm not going to go back and get put on it. And I need to be very careful with who I tell that I'm suicidal to, because it feels otherworldly. It almost felt like a compulsion that I have to do it the way you have to go to the bathroom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Which last week was really hard for me to talk to the parents because they wanted me to kind of tell them how that felt and see the difference between me and their sons possibly is that I knew it was the drug. They didn't.
Right.
And so that lever for suicide was like every day I was fighting for my life.
Did they give you help knowing that was the medication? Were you able to resist it to a greater degree?
Yeah, but it was just like, kill yourself, you're dead, this isn't real. You're the next one of the 22 that's going to end their lives today. You're fucked, you're broken. kill yourself. And then I'm like, no, I'm washing the dishes. And then I like run around the house and then I jump in a cold shower. I mean, I did that for 3.5 years to stay alive.
Jeez.
And inside of me, I knew if I don't first of all, this documentary is following me. So if I end it, that's going to be in the film. And I don't want that to be like my legacy, because I had done years of Student Veterans of America stuff and years of Wounded Warrior Project stuff. And I was like, I can't be a veteran leader and then end it.
Right.
Like I can't. So I fought like hell. And then I thought to myself, also, if I die, they're going to say, oh, that poor veteran, she had post-traumatic stress. Her trauma was too bad. We tried to help her.
Pills.
We tried to help her.
Right.
And I was like, that's not what's happening. This is the drug, and I got to live to tell this story. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to fight like hell. And I'm telling you, there was days I was crawling on my hands and knees. Like, I hope I die in my sleep because I can't do this.
Yeah.
It is intense torture to get off these drugs for some of us. Not everybody, but some of us, it is very intense, and it should be done very safely, not the way that it was done to me.
Yeah, I mean, I admire you so much, Angie, and your strength to do that, and it's remarkable to me, but not unsurprising that I know that there was a drive in you that was taking care of other people and being the example. You know, that's what makes you who you are.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it, because my God, I cannot imagine, the darkest thing I've ever heard. And I've heard a lot of dark stuff. I've got dark humor. You know, most veterans do. It's part of the breed of animal we are, I guess. But in the movie Medicating Normal, there's a scene where you were talking about taking your niece to school.
Yep.
That shook me more than anything else that I've heard or seen in this topic. That's
one of the first scenes, and it was one of the first things I said in front of the camera crew. And when they cut that scene, I said, I don't think I want that shown, because I thought I'm never going to have a career. Everybody's going to think I'm crazy for the rest of my life. That I literally had such homicidal thoughts that I was like driving my niece to school every day thinking I'm going to kill all the kids at the school. And that's not in my nature, you guys. Like, when I see roadkill, I cry. Like, it's ridiculous how sensitive and soft and empathetic I am as a person. And then I was just like, look what these drugs have done to my brain. Like, it felt like my unconscious lid was taken off and I'm in another planet. And you got to know, I'm here living to tell you this. These guys are experiencing this stuff on the drugs and these combinations of drugs, and they think it's them. Mm-hmm. And they think it's something they need to do. Like, I need to end my life.
That's right.
And I'm whispering for you, like from the veil or something, no, these drugs are capable of changing the very fabric of your consciousness, and not a good way.
Right. Dark stuff.
I've lived through hell.
Very grateful that you made it through the other side. And now you are involved in the same issue, but you're coming at it from a different angle now. You are helping people heal. And that's my favorite thing, is I love to talk to healers, real healers, people that are actually getting the job done. And I know you've got an awful lot to share on that. And there was a quote I wanted to start with on that. I'll have to pull it up here because I don't know if I can remember it. Because we're talking about healing, and we have a little tradition here. When folks come, we have them sign a little thing in the bathroom wall of our studio area. And one of the quotes that one of our previous guests had written, I thought was very timely. I saw it just a little while ago, so I snapped a picture to make sure I brought it up here on the podcast. But it says, "Healing is not about fixing yourself. It's about remembering who you were before someone told you that you're broken."
Oh, that's it.
Isn't that it? I think that's the message all around.
Yes. So back then I thought the experts would heal me. Just go to the doctor, do what they're told, go find some veteran retreats to go on, go get some good therapy. It kind of led me away from myself in some ways. In some ways it helped me understand myself. It just, some were good, some was bad, So coming through this process, getting off the meds, I realized a lot of, I call them oh shit moments. Like, oh shit, you can't take meds again. What are you going to do? Oh shit, you're still going to have grief. People are going to die. Your friends are going to be sick. What are you going to do? And so I did a radical thing, and I graduated from WashU after my master's in social work program. The film was coming out at the same time. My lease increased the rent to $300 a month. And I was like, I'm out of here. So I jumped in a van and I took a really big chance. And I was like, I'm going to go tour with this film and kind of like take this as my healing journey. Like, I'm just going to go on the road.
Yeah.
And so,
and that's not just any van. I mean, you're
No,
not Angie in a van down by the river.
No.
You're the Steve-O's Wild Ride podcast kind of van. I mean, it's pretty awesome.
We call it disco spaceship. Disco because you're not broken. You're little pieces of light.
I like it.
Yeah, and it's my spaceship because I go places. Anyway, so I did a lot of like, I call it like mental health to the people. Like, you got to get in touch with yourself. You need to feel all your feelings and stop running and stop masking that with marijuana, with liquor, with women, with whatever your thing is, speed. I was doing skydiving and all kinds of crazy shit when I got back too. But I would like lay in the back of the van and cry. I would have a panic attack in the bathroom. I would go outside in the woods in the middle of Yellowstone Park and scream at the top of my lungs.
Yeah, feel it.
And I went buck wild on like
purging those emotions.
All this stuff that was trapped that I was not in touch with because I was so medicated. You can't process things, you know? And so it just all came out like you wouldn't believe. I also did things like breathing, just strength training, learning about myself. I did some more therapy and then I took breaks from therapy. I did Reiki. I did Eden energy medicine. I went to Sedona and went to a bunch of healers. I went to the ocean and swam and got scared on purpose and walked in the dark on purpose. I did everything I could think of and felt like any impulse in me to do, I just went with it. Wow. Yeah.
That's somebody on a mission. It's an interesting mission because you're kind of finding yourself, you know, really. Did you find you?
I found me. I'm pretty cool.
Where were you?
I was in there the whole time, you guys.
Oh, look at that. Look at that.
And the best part, well, this is not the best part, but through suffering, I have learned that intense experience of coming off the drugs, the way that it warped my perception and who I thought of myself, of what I saw these things capable of doing to my body and my consciousness. You come out of something like that, you know, I'm sure it happens to people that had cancer or lost someone, you know, there's post-traumatic growth. It's kind of like that, but you appreciate things that much more. So seeing a bumblebee hop from, you know, daisy to daisy to daisy was like, oh my God, look at that. It's freaking beautiful. Yeah. You know, so I didn't really need drugs.
Yeah, it sounds like you're already on.
I was like, oh, life, you know, here's life that I was numb from, that I couldn't feel.
Best one of all.
Yeah.
You betcha. So, well, it's beautiful how that come full circle, and you've got so much experience to offer people that can hear your message. Did you, other than Bob Whitaker and books like that community from the harm space that's been going for a long time, like who was your voice to you?
I mean, honestly, I was so disillusioned and cynical about experts. Mm-hmm. Like, I just felt like I don't want anybody telling me who I am or how to feel or how to interpret how I'm feeling or give me some kind of, you know, like when you go to the therapist and they're like, that might be attachment, or, you know, maybe we need to see about meds again. I didn't want any of that interpretation. I was like, let me figure this out. Yeah. I already gave you guys the chance. It's my turn. Yeah. And so I kind of call that, you got to find your own potion. Everybody's got their own magic potion. You should expose yourself to lots of different modalities and figure out what's good for you. Obviously, with informed consent, you don't want to go trying a bunch of chemicals and altering your own brain chemistry more than you might need to. But everybody's got to find that way. It's kind of like radical self-responsibility. Like, I'm in charge of my healing. I cannot give that to the hands of experts anymore. I said, if you wait for the VA to heal you, you're going to die first, probably. So that's your job. Healing is your job.
Yeah, that is exactly right. I believe there are many paths up the mountain. We say that over and over and over here in the foundation, and I believe they're true. Our Triangular Compass program is built around that philosophy that only you can heal you. At the end of the day, healing is really acceptance and integration is really what healing is when it comes down to it, at least in terms of what we're talking about. Yeah. And what we try to do with Triangular Compass is we expose people to as many modalities as what we possibly can. So far this year, we've had singing bowls and sound bath therapy, which was really cool. We've had beekeeping as a healing modality, as crazy as that sounds, it's amazing. And just being in the drone and the buzzing and just watching those guys go and do their work, and they kind of start to you learn how to talk to them if you listen and you pay attention, like they're communicating with us. It's really cool. Equine therapy, we've done Qigong and Tai Chi.
Amazing.
We had something called it's a type of hypnosis. It's quantum hypnosis. That was really cool. Cold plunges and nutrition. So yeah, we're all about that because really, it's what is it that's going to spark that fire in you to have that honest conversation with yourself and stop running, stop hiding, stop looking for masks to wear, and actually go look at yourself in the mirror without a mask for the first time. That's healing.
Absolutely. And here's the sad part about this. We are forced, when you come off meds, you're forced to do those things to save your own life. And you find out that's what I should have been doing all along.
All along, right. So simple. So simple. I mean, it's hard, but it's
hard.
So simple.
Well, and I think to push back, people in the audience are going to say, no, you don't understand. My depression is so bad. I can't go for a walk.
Right.
I get it. And at some point, you're going to have to go for a walk.
That's right. That's right.
It sucks. I promise you. I've been on the floor crawling, jumping in a cold plunge, shocked. And that's what I needed to do.
Yeah, it's hard. I find that with my own practices of my mindfulness and spirituality and things like that. There are things that are important to me. There are things that have helped me a great deal. And I find that when I'm in easier times in my life, it's easier to practice those things because I'm holding them in reverence and gratitude for what they've done for me. It's whenever the rubber hits the road and I'm starting to struggle, I find it really hard to engage the tools that I'm so proud of and so fond of.
And I think it's built into our society. Like we all want that easy fix. We want a cure today.
That's right.
I think your healing journey is your entire life. There's not a destination.
Oh, that's beautiful.
There's just like, what am I going to do to work on this situation? Things are not always going to be good and happy. That's not normal. And
that is it. When we were, the thing that grabbed me the most on Medicating Normal, the movie, and we did the screening the other night, was I deciphered the name of the movie. It's like you're already normal and we're medicating you kind of out of that. And it's like, yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. And what's the end message there? You were never broken to begin with.
Exactly.
You were experiencing human emotions and human feelings. And guess what? Life's hard. Bad things happen. The world's a scary place. And when bad things come along, you have a reaction to it. You're going to feel something. And if you try to put a mask over that something or you try to suppress it, you're still going to have to deal with it, but you're going to be dealing with it in a lot less healthy of a way. You can compress it. You can medicate it. You can, whatever it is, you can ignore it, but you're still going to have to deal with that at some point. So just feel the feels.
And first of all, if you want to watch Medicating Normal, it's free on YouTube, so everybody can go watch that if you want to see it.
That's right. We've got links to it on our website. In fact, we've got the movie embedded on the main page. When you go to grunstallfoundation.org, it's the first video there on the main page is Medicating Normal.
But second of all, that's kind of what I learned through this. Bob's book is what helped me get there. It almost was like a lightning bolt. That's the reason I have a tattoo of a lightning bolt is because I was listening to the audio. And when I figured it out, I was like, wait a minute. I was never mentally ill to begin with. Right. I had a normal reaction to war and trauma.
Right. Imagine
and
that.
Seeing my soldier with literal staples down his stomach, shitting in a colostomy bag. The way that I freaked out in that moment is actually normal.
It's absolutely normal.
And then they interpreted that as mental illness. And I believed that for 13 years. And I was mentally ill. And I was never going to take meds for the rest of my life. And I would never date again. And I would never have a marriage. And I would never finish school. They were fucking wrong. And so that's the message these veterans, all of us, are given, that there's something wrong with how you reacted to war. No, there's not. How are you supposed to? There's something wrong if you didn't react to war.
Exactly.
Actually,
yes.
That would be, it's backwards.
Right.
Okay, so then what happens is, I call it kicking the can down the road. You have this war issue. You had this trauma. We didn't get the time off. We didn't get the treatment that we really needed, like some love and care and just rest and just go for a walk, whatever you need to do.
Right.
to reintegrate, and then you get put on a bunch of meds, and then you come off the meds, and now you're sicker than you've ever been, and it just compounds the issue times 1,000. Like for someone like me, you wouldn't believe this because I look normal today, but I had 18 years of disability. I have no retirement. I have no savings. I lost my marriage. I lost my Army career over this. Okay, these are irreparable damages to my everything, and I've had to rebuild that, not with the help of anyone. Yeah. On my own. Okay. And so now what I've done for the last 4 years is I coach people that are coming off meds, and I'm watching their healing processes, and I'm helping them figure it out. And I'm telling you, there's no better feeling than watching someone successfully taper, have a good outcome. It wasn't easy, but then they get their life back. They get their identity back. They get their sexuality back. They get their thoughts and their feelings back. They don't have any more of these symptoms because they worked through all this stuff. Right. That the meds took them off the path.
Well, and that is why you're a healer. And let's talk a little bit about that. So we're talking about titration, and first off, like that word gets thrown around a lot in this discussion. Would you mind explaining what does that even mean?
So just so you know, I'm probably one of 20 world experts on deprescribing at this point. I'm on the coaching side, though. I'm not on the medical side, but I watch. Now, I mean, over the years, I've probably watched thousands of people successfully.
You're a doer, not a thinker.
Yeah, I watch and I help, and I know, I've like studied this. Okay. Yeah. So there is a book called The Maudsley Deprescribing Guidelines. I'll give you guys a link so that people can hyperlink it. There's lots of vets buying these and taking them to their VA.
Oh yeah, that's got to be weird.
Get them where it hurts. But in the book, they explain that you need to taper in a hyperbolic fashion, which means you're taking a percentage of the current dose. So you're not doing a step down like this, like 1 milligram, 1 milligram, 1 milligram, 1 milligram. You're doing, like, say you start at 10, you're doing at 10% of the 10 milligrams, which will take you down to like 9. Okay, then you do 10% of the 9, which will take you down to like 8.2. Then you do 10% of 8.2, which will take you down to like 7.4. So it's not, it's the way that the body absorbs the drug and then readapts on your way down.
So how long is each step?
So this is where it gets complicated, and which is why I'm a little worried about what we've done. Dropping a grenade in Capitol Hill last week is because this should be done. It's not easy, and not everybody should do it. I really don't think so. It should be voluntary, and it should be patient-led, which means if the veteran's on a cocktail of 8 drugs, they probably need to look at what is the most stimulating drug, what is the one with the highest risks. So like antipsychotics have you dying 25 years earlier because of the metabolic effects. Right. Benzos are a little bit more dangerous. Usually people save things for sleep last. So you want to taper the most dangerous and most activating drugs first, stimulants, stuff like that. You need to look at your diet. You need to have support. You need to have peer support is very, very, very important in this. There's a preparation phase. It's not just cold turkey or drugs. That's actually the wrong way to do it, and it's going to end you up on more drugs in the hospital. So it can take people, I'm not exaggerating when I say this, 2 to 5 to 8 years to get off these cocktails. This is not an overnight process.
And nobody is told that when these things are prescribed.
Is this news to you?
Well, I mean, I'm aware of it because I'm in the cycle of it, but I can remember the first time I heard it, and I thought there is no possible way that could be real.
Yeah. So some of these effects, and this is where it gets confusing, because if you're really sick and you're on a drug like I was, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's nothing in my life that's really making me sick. Why do I feel like this? That's what usually people find. Right. When I ask them, why do you want to taper? They're like, I don't really have a choice. I'm sick as a dog, and I don't know what else it is. I've tested for everything else, and they can't find anything, so it's like a process of exclusion. It's got to be the medication I'm on. Other people say, like, I have sexual side effects. I feel numb. I want my emotions to come back. There's lots of reasons people want to get off, you know? So you usually look at one of those drugs first. You taper that kind of slowly. You might do 10%, 10%, 10% just to start out. If you're really sick, you might have to go slower than that and just see. We call it a test dose. Like if I do a 2% cut for 1 month, how does my body react to that? Okay.
So the average person listening, they're going, you know, I want to, take that step and get off these things. And that sounds, like I'm willing to do the work. It's going to be a hard road, but I don't know how to start. And it sounds like if I go to my healthcare provider, they may just increase my dosage, because I keep hearing that story over and over and over and over and over again.
They don't want to touch it, really.
Well, that's one of the things that, some of the stories of the people we know that have taken their lives at these VA facilities, They understand what the problem is. They knew what was happening to them. They were trapped in it because they're not addicted. They're dependent. Because if they don't have them, they're going to ride the lightning. Akathisia is going to kick it. All these horrible things.
If you guys knew if you would sit with me for a week, it would blow your mind how difficult these drugs are to taper for many, 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 many people. And I'm talking kids, I'm talking adults, I have people in their I have a veteran, I had to call him at his house. He's like, Angie, please tell me I'm going to get better. I am so full of terror and anxiety. I can't even sit in my recliner. He's like in his 70s, like a Vietnam vet, sick as a dog. His son emailed me and was like, please call my dad, please. And I'm like, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. I have to constantly reassure him because the doctor cold turkeyed him because he's over 65 and he shouldn't be on a benzo.
Right. Well, I want to keep talking about healing, but I do want to digress just a minute because I think this is timely that you bring this up. And we're talking about, sudden withdrawal from these things versus tapered withdrawal. I keep hearing over and over again from our constituents, people that have had the experience where they're on these pills and then for whatever reason, they can't access them. Maybe the VA is not sending them their pills or what. Like, could you walk us through what is happening in our community with that?
First of all, doctors have a lot of pressure. Like Medicare right now has a benzo deprescribing initiative. They want people over 65 off their benzos. There's a lot of veterans that can fit in that category. Veterans at VA over 65, they're at risk because benzos and antidepressants and antipsychotics appear on the FEARS list, which are drugs that are contraindicated for people of age because it increases their risks of falls and cancer and dementia and all these things. So there's that risk. Then there's just turnover at the VA. There's tons of turnover. Physicians often go there right out of school. They work for a certain period of time, and then they go find another position in the community somewhere. Veterans, I don't know. If they're not keeping up with their appointments, they could be dropped. If the mail order supply is not coming in on a regular basis, that's one of the legislative points we want to make in upcoming legislation, hopefully. There's lots of reasons. Just not staying on your appointments, not staying on your refills. It can put you into a withdrawal state, and then you're going to be convinced, I need my meds. Yeah. But no, you're probably experiencing withdrawal.
And the withdrawal seems to be a spectrum in terms of severity. It's a spectrum.
Yeah, so let's talk about that really quick.
Sure.
So if you're on short term, you have better chances to get off easier. The more withdrawal attempts that you have, we have research that shows, and I've witnessed this in myself and others, but the more times you try to come off and you don't do it correctly, the worse your withdrawal is going to be over and over and over. So you need to do this right and hopefully in the short term and first. What I worry about is these guys like me that we've been on since our deployment 20 years ago.
Right.
There's a lot of veterans in that category. You've been on meds for 10 plus years. That is more the reason to take a long, slow taper. What is the hurry? Right. If you've been on it for 10 years,
what are you rushing for?
Don't rush. Chill out. Okay. What I tell everyone to advocate for themselves. This is the best question you can ask your provider. Are you ready? What do you know about antidepressant withdrawal? What do you know about benzo withdrawal? Ask your provider that question and shut up. Don't tell them what you heard on Grunt Style. Don't tell them what you watched on Medicating Normal. Don't tell them what you Googled. Just ask the question and let them answer it. If they tell you you can be off in 4 weeks, if they tell you no problem, that doesn't exist, run. That's not a safe provider.
Okay.
Go talk to the pharmacist. Ask the same question.
Yeah.
And then you might have to get a private doctor. You might have to do this. I know this is radical what I'm about to say, and I don't like this, but there's a lot of people doing it on their own because they can't find a provider that understands. Because there's no training at VA, which we talked about last week.
That's right.
So,
man,
it's a shit storm.
It is a shit storm, and that blade is spinning fast, man. Just hitting it. Yeah. I mean, what does right look like in your perfect world? If you're the puppet master, and you said, "Okay, we're going to establish the magical place where people dealing with this issue can come to and heal," what does that look like to you?
Man, what a question. First, that we're advocating for signatory informed consent when being put on a drug. We also need that for coming off. And so you need to know that your risk for suicide is increased while you're coming off. Your risk for akathisia is increased. Your risk for intense withdrawal symptoms that can last months and years is increased. And so I think veterans and their support systems need to understand those risks through education. That is this the best thing for me? Do I need to stay on? Do I need to just do some harm reduction and take off one of these drugs or two? especially if you're on a cocktail, you need to get on a healing path. It's absolutely mandatory. It's not optional.
Right.
You have to change your diet. You have to change the way you think about your post-traumatic stress. You have to change the way you think about who's going to fix you, what you're going to do when shit gets hard. When you feel depressed and panicked and anxious and you're crawling out of your skin, what are you going to do in that moment? You cannot run anymore. You cannot patch it with another drug. You cannot patch it with psilocybin. Some of these things, when you throw that on someone who's tapering, it makes it worse. It's not good to like throw a bunch of chemicals while you're already in a chemical soup.
Yeah, anybody that's in chaos has no business dealing with any kind of psychedelic for sure.
So, I mean, I'm just telling you from my point of view, like I need to do a bunch of writing because there's just so much work to do in this. And like you guys were talking on the last segment, one of the lives that you guys just did, just about all the different points and how many years this is going to take.
Yeah.
This is like multiple layers of identity, of purpose, of who's going to fix you, of what does it mean to heal? What does that mean for you? What goals do you have for your own life? How do you live a meaningful life? This is not just taking a drug off.
This is undoing a spider web of damage.
Yes.
You know, this is like taking a row of dominoes and more behind it, more behind it, more behind it, more behind it. And, you know, you've got to go pull the fifth one from the top and six from the left without somehow knocking down the ones around it.
You nailed it.
And it's super complex.
And it's messy, and then there's no path. I can't give you a protocol. Everybody's different. Right. Everybody's taper's different. Right. It's very individualized. That's what I'm scared of. I don't want to see like this protocol. We don't want to repeat the opiate crisis again.
Absolutely. Because, and you know, one thing that's a good point too, because, you know, look at how they solved the opioid crisis. Oh, you caught us, our bad. Look at what we did. We're going to give you $8 billion in restitution. And hey, we're going to sell you these pills to replace those pills for the low cost of $14 billion.
Oh. And they gave veterans a choice. You want your benzo or do you want your opiate? You can't have both.
Right.
And then they cold turkeyed them off the other one, and then the suicide rate went up.
Yeah, boom. And I know there's these guys that troll me constantly that are, I think they're dealing something with the opioid stuff. But every time we post anything about this, they come on and scream about we're going to kill a bunch of people and somehow related to opioids.
No, and we're not here to take people's drugs away.
Right.
My point of view is everyone should have the choice and the option.
Yeah, you should at least be known that, hey, man, be aware that you're about to sign a deal with the devil.
Be aware.
That's what
I should have been told.
Down to.
Right. I was being put on a drug that increased my PTSD now is like medical PTSD. I'm terrified of doctors.
Yeah.
I have to work with them. And some of my best friends are psychiatrists now, which who would have thought that? But
yeah,
like anything medical, I'm totally freaked out because they almost killed me. I need to go to the VA right now and I can't. Like I'm trying to work through like, Angie, you have to go. Like there's some things you need to get done. But yeah.
So it's like, you know, in my mind, what I want to see come about is I want to see these wellness farms, as they like to skewer and ridicule Bobby Kennedy over. And I think he's absolutely 100% on the right, just on the nose. You know, someplace that people can go. Maybe it's for however much time that it requires, or your different paths for different people in different places, but a place where people can go. They get individualized coaching specific to them with alternative healing modalities made available that are helpful and proven, like hyperbaric oxygen therapy. That can go so far. Saunas, meditation and mindfulness.
For me, it was van life.
Well, I don't know if
whatever,
you can drive your van around in circles around the farm.
Whatever you need.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? Like it's something that's contained. And I think the most important element to this is going to be the coaching. Because
in my work, it's a lot about, like I was trained as a therapist at WashU. I decided not to take my license so that I could do coaching because my people are dealing with day to day. How do I get through this intense feeling of terror and panic today? Okay, it's not about pulling up their trauma. It's things like, Angie, I believed myself to be mentally ill for the last 20 years. I completely fulfilled that identity. All I know is like how sick I am and how to overanalyze my thoughts. Like, who am I? Mm-hmm. That's not a therapy kind of thing. That's like, so yeah, we have a lot wrong with pathologizing post-traumatic stress. And I just want to say that really quick because I know, listen, as a community, we have been through some horrific things, okay? Some of our friends are dead, missing limbs, burns. I mean, I've lost 16 friends total right now. I'm at 16 and only one was in combat. The rest were health problems or suicide. What we're not saying is that post-traumatic stress is not real. It's real. Okay. It's real. but it does not mean you have a drug deficiency and you need about 8 meds to fix that. That's not what it means.
Your vitamin PTSD levels are low in your body, so we need to give
It also doesn't mean you're broken. You're not broken. You're actually right.
Right.
Because you were affected by that experience.
We need to help people work through those difficult instances.
Emotions, the grief,
and it's
love.
so tricky because, in our culture, in our society, especially, and I've got a stranger view of it probably because I grew up in a very small town in the Ozark Mountains. So, the 1980s were a lot like the early 1970s there. And I don't know that it's caught up a whole lot since then. But it was a wonderful place to grow up. And, the churches played a huge role in that town. Everyone was religious or spiritual, in some set. And I think they played a good role in that first line of helping people deal with their emotions, whatever their religion may have been. And we're moving away from that. And we're coming more into these spiritual practices and for those that still have spirituality. And I think that's great because there's a lot of opportunity. There's, it's many paths again, find what works for you. And that's a little more custom tailorable, if that's a word, to where you can find exactly what speaks to you and incorporate that into some kind of a belief system that, checks the block for that hierarchy of needs of, that connection to the divine or what have you. But not everybody is comfortable being spiritual, let alone taking a step into spirituality or going to church. A lot of people our age and younger especially have serious bone to pick with organized religion. And I think, a lot of that's probably earned. But the fact remains, those are the guide rails of society and have been for millennia. So, okay, how do we have a substitute for that? What is the best route to provide or get people to engage that? What's the right messaging? What's the level of awareness? What has to happen for people to go, okay, maybe this is mental health. Maybe it's not so much a spiritual thing as mental. You call it whatever you want, but the end result is going to be the same because the path is very similar.
Yeah. Are you asking how do you get on the healing path and figure it out? I mean, to me, it's just, you got to try a bunch of different things, not drugs, not mental health stuff. If you've already tried that, just check yourself. How am I feeling? Do I feel good? Am I happy with my life right now? What else do I need? What's missing? And then start following that path. Yeah. It's really about asking yourself.
I agree with that.
Not having someone tell you. The other thing I want to make a point about, because this is important. I hear a lot of messaging around when a veteran's in crisis, what do we do? Tell them to call the 988.
Right. Go get on the register to go get pills.
No. Go seek help at the emergency room. Yeah. In some cases, I get it. Okay. But there's more choices than that. Yeah. So I just want everybody to think about how we have removed ourselves. When a veteran's in front of you telling you that I'm suffering, I need help, I can't stand this way I'm feeling. Shut up and listen for a second. Right. Stop passing them off to some professional who's never been to combat, who's going to give them medication. Yep. And do you know, fun fact that I just learned a month ago when I went to a conference, the American Association for Suicidology. I went to that conference. They said 988 is not trained to ask anyone, what medication are you on? Have you had any recent changes to your medication? Those two questions are not asked.
They're both pretty important to know.
Pretty important, don't you think? We should know that when a veteran's suicidal and they call 988. No, that's not being asked.
Well, did you hear the story of the Missouri representative from out of St. Charles here that had? Oh, this is a great story. I'll tell it very briefly. Lady had a veteran friend of hers and her husband's at their home. And he had some kind of meltdown, and it was scary. And so this person, who's a elected official for the state, called 988, called the crisis line, and got stuck in an AI system and couldn't get out of it. And what she was trying to do was to say, I have a veteran in my home that I feel like maybe he's in danger for sure, and we may be in danger as well. I don't want to call the cops. Could you help us walk through it? But they couldn't get out of the AI thing. So she calls the Department of Mental Health, who is over all things veteran for the state, and also runs that program, and told them what was going on. So a representative comes down to her office. This is this she tells me the story, the lady this happened to, and she takes him in the office and says, I'm going to show you, what's going on. Yeah, this is possible. And so she does it. And again, they can't break the loop of the AI. So he's telling her prompts like, tell it you have, a pew-pew, tell her you're going to do this now, say these things, trying to prompt the system to kick in, and it wouldn't.
Oh my God.
So she, that was all that was necessary. So she had made her demonstration and she hangs up the phone, and she got charged with a crime. For making these like terroristic threats or whatever on this call line. Joke. Well, that doesn't instill a lot of confidence, does it?
No, and another fun fact is 30% of those calls result in law enforcement interaction.
Right.
And for veterans, sometimes that is very threatening and re-traumatizing. And so I just want to bring a point about how we have professionalized help seeking. That it's like it's not your responsibility. Go pass them off to someone else, but things like irreverent warriors, we're trying to bring these guys back. Okay, we have to do this as a community.
Yeah,
got to stop passing people off to other people who don't really get it.
That's right. I want to talk a little bit more about the coaching. Okay. Like, how does someone become a coach, a titration coach?
Good question, because there is no training for that. I learned through my own experience. I did a couple training programs. I've done somatic experiencing training for a year. I trained as a therapist. I did a certified professional coach for Recovery International. So I did it from kind of lived experience plus skills. And I think there's some coaches online that you probably should stay away from that have like zero training. Right. So I have lots of heavy duty mental health training in my background. But mostly, honest to God, it's just empathy. It's just people in a very hard place in their lives that are suffering, and I just hold space for them, and I just love them.
Well, okay.
That's all I can really do.
Let me ask you a question. If you were to take people that already have that mental health background, you wanted to train them just on how to be a coach.
That's the writing I need to do.
How long does that, how much time do you need to take someone that's already got the skills to learn these complementary skill sets and go out and put them into effect?
It's funny because the way that therapy training works nowadays, it's like, look at the DSM-5, diagnose this person with this certain thing, and then there's this list of therapies that they should try. Yeah. There's this theoretical background perspective on, like, why does this person feel the way they do after a trauma? Let's try to unwind that from an EMDR perspective or something. Deprescribing coaching is kind of different, where it's like this person is titrating a drug. We don't need to interpret their symptoms as another mental illness.
Right.
That's not what's happening. This person is titrating a drug. So I am not diagnosing or treating any mental illness. The person has a doctor that's handling their tapering. I'm just doing supportive role of empathy, support, help them find coping, help them. I talk to their family a lot, partners that don't quite understand it. It's a lot of identity processing. Like, Angie, I believe myself that I was mentally ill for 15 years. Like, how do I undo that? Like, who am I? How do I figure out what I want to do now? And I realize I'm in a bad marriage. That's why I got medicated in the first place. How do I cope with this? These messy feelings. How do I feel my feelings? How do I suffer well? That's what we call it. We suffer well. Right. Like, while you're suffering, what are you learning about yourself? What are you exposing yourself to? Are you reading scary stories and horror stories? Or are you trying to learn about healing? Right. And trying to put your focus on, I'm going to heal from this. I don't care what it takes. Mm-hmm. So how much time do I need? I don't know, man. I'm convinced that unless you have had the experience of coming off a psych drug,
it's
very hard for me to teach that to you.
Yeah, it's one of those lived experiences. You either have experienced it or you've not.
It's kind of like combat. Like, you can tell them so much and they can kind of get it, but they don't have that frame of reference to really understand. Right. And I'm not trying to take control of this area of practice. It's just like, even from the people that are deprescribing, they want to talk to me because they know I've been through it and they know that I'm healthy and I'm on the other side. Yeah. So they kind of look up to me like, how did you do this? I need to figure out how to do this.
You know what we ought to do? We ought to get together here and go on a tour of as many towns as what we can. We should invite the mental health practitioners in every town to come attend one of these symposiums. And let's just start in Missouri.
We could start up film screenings again. I've done 100. Yes. I did 75 in-person screenings before the pandemic happened. Yeah,
we could do the screening and then we could have the little coaching. I mean, that way, probably none of these people have been through what we're talking about here, but I think seeing that movie's you feel like you've been through it if you've not been through it. I didn't go through anything to the degree of what I saw in that movie. But that was eye-opening, and I think that would be time well spent. So, yeah, well, I don't know. I'm game for that, man.
Let's do it.
Find some way to fund that and get it on the road and spread this message, because I think the overall goal there should be start waking people up enough to start asking that question of, is this the med? And also conveying that story of human emotions are normal. And I'm not sure how in the world psychology misses that, or if they do and just ignore it. So,
it's an industry like any other.
Yes, it's what a rabbit hole. Well, I tell you what, do you have anything you want to close with that we've not talked about? We can talk about before we end? Or
I guess you can find me on angiepeacock.com, or my Instagram travel page is Being Human RV. Which being human is what we all want to be. We are human. So that's kind of why I made it like, I'm just going to go out here and be a human being and stop thinking to myself sick. So you can follow me anywhere, Angie Peacock, and YouTube. My entire healing journey is on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, Angie Peacock.
So now you do have a consulting business where people can reach out and help. Do you have, I mean, I've got to imagine you've got an awful lot of people in your stable.
We have 16 tapering, acute withdrawal, and protracted support groups per month that I run personally. We have one-on-one coaching with me and 2 other coaches that have lived experience. We have a spirituality Sundays, sanctuary Sundays. So it's interfaith minister runs it.
That's awesome.
We have caregiver support. We have online resources. We have videos. I interview all the experts like Peter Gertcha, Bob Whitaker. All these guys are on my channel. Kim Witzak.
The Titans.
I hang out in that crowd. I stay up to date on the latest research, the latest trend, anything that I can do to help you guys get on a healing path. I am here for you. I have helped lots of vets. I've lost a vet also to Walter Reed from akathisia from Sarah Quill. And so this is deeply personal, and just get in a community. It doesn't have to be mine. Okay, there's lots of other resources. There's surviving antidepressants. There's Alliance for Benzodiazepine Best Practices. There's the Inner Compass Initiative, which their other name is the Withdrawal Project. There's lots of YouTube videos. There's psychiatrists that do this work. Primarily, I have a referral list if you need referral resources. So just reach out and I'll get you whatever I can.
So how does that work when they're getting referral? Someone can refer them into you, and then insurance would pay for that?
No, I'm all self-pay. And so, because I don't work in the system, so if I have to accept insurance, I have to diagnose people. That's something I am unwilling to do.
I see.
And I can't talk to people about suicide, which I do every single day.
Right.
The way that I do if I was licensed and taking insurance. So I work outside the system.
So
Isn't that backwards?
So the system we have that it's supposed to be the ones that help us are not allowed to try to help us.
No. And I mean, I tell you, talk about suicide prevention every single day of my job for the last 4 years. I have intensely suicidal people that do not end their lives and do not go to psychiatry and do not go to the hospital, and they do heal from this. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, so I'm self-pay. My groups are very low cost, just to show that you care and that you want to be there. I don't do things for free anymore because a lot of us get that stuff and we take advantage of it.
Right.
And then the doctors that I work with, most of them are also self-pay. Some of them take insurance, but it's guys that I have thoroughly screened. Mm-hmm. I do not send anyone to someone that I do not trust and believe, and I would not use myself during my own taper. So I have a very short list of those providers in the United States. It depends on what state you live in, but there's also Outro. They help people taper antidepressants. It's a low-cost service. I run their peer support groups over at Outro. I think they're California, Florida, Texas, New York, like some of the bigger states. But there's people out here doing this work. We have really good outcomes for the most part, but your suicide risk is a little elevated if you come off.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you, Angie, for being here with us today. Check out medicatingnormal.com, everybody, and go explore this amazing movie. It tells the story of Angie Peacock and several other incredible individuals that took part in the making of that incredibly powerful in meaningful film, and it's available for free. You can watch it online at medicatingnormal.com. You can also find it on our website at gruntstylefoundation.org. We're going to be posting it all over our social media and trying to get as many eyeballs as what we possibly can on that, and it sounds like, who knows, maybe we'll be coming to a town near you pretty soon if we can get all the stars aligned. I think it's important work. I think it's the most important work that the foundation is doing is beating the drum on this issue of these antidepressants, benzodiazepines, and SSRIs. And again, if you are someone that's on these pills, please do not stop taking them. We just want to raise awareness, and we want to get you better informed so that you can successfully walk the path that is ahead of you. And so check us out on our other podcasts. This is Grunt Style Foundation's Gaslighting, the Warfighter. Check us out also on our Triangular Compass. Join us every Friday on our social media platforms for our Friday Power Hour, which we live stream over with the fine folks over at Irreverent Warriors in cities across the United States. And we are also on X every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 Eastern. You can join in on the conversation. Everybody's welcome to participate. It's a lot of fun. And you can find us on X at GruntStyleFDN. So that's it, everybody. Thanks for joining. I hope this was meaningful to you all in some way. Thank you again, Angie, for being here. And until next time, take care of each other. And remember, it is you're not broken, you're human. And don't forget it. The Grunt Style Foundation continues fighting for those who have served. Support our mission at gruntstylefoundation.org/donate.